Hi there folks, it's a Monday for me. I don't know when you're rowing this, but for me it's a Monday and it's another week's worth of 5k everyday workouts. Now remember, the 5k is just a nice title, okay? So I'm going to be rowing for around about 22 minutes. I'll cover 5k in that. I'll then add on around about 4 or 5 minutes as I do another k just to kind of cool down or whatever, and hopefully that'll give you a chance to get a good workout. Maybe you're looking for that 5k target, maybe that's enough. Maybe you're already rowing because you know that these intros are quite long and this is going to get you up there. It really doesn't matter. Your rowing is your rowing, okay? Don't compare yourself to other people, right? So we're going to set up our machines, we'll get into the row, I'll talk some more to you. Does that sound like a plan? Great. So go to drag factor, resistance, squirrels, whatever your machine uses in order to feel some kind of sensation from the stroke. And what you're looking for is to feel connected to it, but not having to tug and heave against it. If you have to pull early or open your back early, it's too high. Reduce it, okay? Next up, go to your, let's go foot plates next. I don't know why I was pointing on my seat. Go to your foot plates and set them at a height where you're able to come into the front of the machine with your shins in a vertical position comfortably. Now I've just woken up and I'm like this. So I know that eventually just having one hold showing on the foot plates is the right position, but right now I just can't even, I can't bring myself to get into the front. And then going to the seat then, we want to sit more towards the front of the seat and more towards the front of your backside. Really do think about that, about being, I'm not like, I don't want you to hang off the front because that's when you fall off, but sit more towards the front and on the front part rather than sitting at the back with the back, big meaty part of your backside. Front of the seat with the front of your backside, okay? So, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling a little bit today, so I'll take my hoodie off. And we'll get started with today's row. Just quickly start my heart rate monitor. Come on, there we go. Okay, so in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So, now, somebody did comment about how on one of the rows I said I'll do this round about 210 pace, and then I ended up like 205. So I'm going to let my legs do the talking. But you can see right now as I ease myself into this row, I run about 214 pace. I'm just warming up into it. You may have gathered from the intro that I'm not long awake. I'm missing the catch a little bit there. What's happening? Overcompression maybe? Yeah, probably. I'm not long awake, so I need my body to slowly get into the idea that I'm going to be doing a workout for 25 minutes, I suppose. So this is the point of warm-ups, of taking things easy. Just let your body open up gradually. Your compression and flexibility into the front will improve if you just think about sitting up on your sit bones and then tilting forwards into the front of the machine to around about 1 o'clock on the clock face as you're watching me. And then at the back of the stroke, get to that 11 o'clock position. And then if you can just think about straight arms as you drive the power into the machine and only pulling at the back, honestly, that's like 95% of technique covered right there. Sit up, tilt forward, straight arms, pull at the back, and then tilt backwards. And I may be able to string that out to 15 minutes sometimes. There's more to it than that. There's lots of nuance, but really, if you can just be thinking about rock forwards, tilt back, rock forwards, arms, posture, rock, arms, posture, rock. Then everything else should hopefully fall into place. So, right, I may return to technique later in this row, but let's talk about something a bit more exciting. The handle. It's, well, that was only half a joke. So, I'm in the middle of making a proper video about it, but This is the updated Smart Row power handle. And the update, as far as I can tell, I mean, there's probably electronic gubbins inside that they've improved. But as far as the contact experience is concerned, they have rounded off the handle, like where you hold. Before it was slightly oval, whereas in this new version, it's now round like you'd expect from a Concept 2. So a bit more familiar to hold. There is, don't know if you're paying attention, but there's a little bit of a wobble that happens to the chain. I think because it's slightly front heavy because of the gubbins inside it, but it doesn't affect the row at all. If you didn't know about it, the point is that it's basically a force meter. It's a power handle, so it knows, like, whether it's got a force meter inside, so it knows the amount of power I'm putting into each stroke. It knows the stroke rate, probably just by working out force on, force off, force on, force off, and it knows that. And then it knows stroke length because it counts the vibrations of the links going across the sprocket, which I still think is just such a fascinating solution to it. And so the point being that if you have a rowing machine with a chain and you want, and like maybe it's like a Concept 2 with a PM3, let's say, and you want a way to send data to an app, then this handle, you can just attach it to the chain and it'll do that. Or if you've got one of the, like a skill row or a Rogue or a Merak or whatever, and you want accurate power data coming from your machine, because the Merak is an okay machine to row on, but the data from the monitor is just rubbish. It's funny, doing these real-time rows at the same time, you start to recognize, like this 66 plus guy, I recognize him from a row last week or the week before. Anyway, so it's a really clever handle, and it also has buttons on it that allow you to control like your music player or apparently your TV. So that's pretty cool. So yes, that's what the handle's about. It's also very pretty. So how are you? How's your weekend? Did you do anything interesting? My weekend, kind of. I got to Friday evening, and as far as I can tell, a tornado or whatever came into the house, spun me around, and then dropped me on Sunday evening. Because this was one of those weekends that just flew by. And I don't feel I particularly achieved much. I mean, Saturday was spent making rowing videos for my row, and then, or like editing them. We had a couple of hours where Julie, Holly and me, we went into Glasgow into town to pick up the pottery that we painted a couple of weeks ago. So I've got my lovely Van Halen mug for my coffee. But then Saturday just finished. I'm like, what? Well, I'm there. And then yesterday, got up, did some work on my app, then went to band practice, got home, had about 20 minutes to set up for the EXA group row, cooked dinner, relaxed while we watched the latest episode of the Pitt, and then it was bedtime, and now here we are. Just some weekends can go on and on, and you're like, this is amazing. There's other ones of this whirlwind. But tell you, in the group row yesterday, I was kind of garbling my way through something. I think because it was quite a structured row we did yesterday, I was so busy calling out the different stroke rate and pace changes that I couldn't quite clear my head to tell what I was thinking, so I'll try again. Because I was sitting behind the drum kit, playing along, boomsh, boomsh, boomsh. And it occurred to me that there is a certain amount of time that you need to spend to learn an instrument or learn a language, maybe. Or not maybe, definitely. That you need to practice, you need to learn before you can even really step on the second rung of the ladder. So when I first picked up the drums, it took me, say, a couple of hours to really just get the, what's the word? I've lost it. Not isolation. It'll come to me, where basically where your foot's doing one thing, your right hand is doing another, and your left hand is doing another. Independence. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. But you can stop shouting at your screen now. And so then, I was able to play the bumpa-chita, bumpa-chita, bumpa-chita beat. And I think at the time, I hadn't quite worked out what my music taste was. All I had was Mum's Beatles records. It's like Rubber Soul and stuff. So I just put that on my tiny little radio and play along to that. He's a real nowhere man, living in nowhere land. Anyway, but it was really just bump-chit, bump-chit, nothing fancy. And that then led to a lot of time spent practicing, learning new beats, learning flourishes, the fill-ins, all that kind of stuff. Going from bum bum to bum bum bum, all that stuff. But still, I was only on maybe the third rung of a ladder. If anybody had come up to me at that point and said, hey, I hear you're a drummer, I'd be like, well, I have a drum kit. Tiny little jazz drum kit that my granddad, grandpa, something used to have. Poor kit, I absolutely destroyed it. Anyway, so I practiced and practiced and practiced. And eventually, say a couple of years, some friends came to the door, or some strangers, basically, I would have been, I think, 13. They would have been 17. Appeared at my door. We hear you play the drums. Yes, I do. We need a drummer in our band. Okay. And that was it. I started playing the drums for a band called Half Cut, which I said before, if you search YouTube for Half Cut, Somebody Help Me, you'll see the video that I edited of like all the old footage about 2019, I think, pre-COVID. That was like, what, 30 years after I was in the band. Anyway, so joined the band, lots of practice, lots of continuing to learn, okay? That's a very long intro, and like maybe you've got a similar story when it comes to playing an instrument or speaking a language or, I don't know, chess, something that you wouldn't have sat down and then instantly gone, all right, I've got this, and then never worked at it. You know where I'm going with this, don't you? Whereas, when it comes to running, there's, interestingly, as kids, we all tend to run properly, but as we get older, we start to do weird things like overstride and stuff. But anyway, running or cycling, not quite to the same extent. There is a lot of technique in cycling, but there isn't, once you've got like proper shoes, you have the proper body position, it then just becomes about like kicking across the top of the stroke and scraping down the bottom of the stroke. But rowing, as you'll know from the amount of times I talk technique, there is a lot more involved. But the problem is that unlike my drum kit, anybody can sit down on a rowing machine and make it go. It doesn't matter what your technique is like, as long as you are moving the handle from the front of the machine to the back of the machine, you will see something on the monitor. And the problem is that I suppose it's a combination of people not knowing or not caring, or gyms not knowing or not caring that people will just climb on, think it's all about pulling, think that power or speed is all about stroke rate or how many strokes you put into the machine, and will then just continue rowing suboptimally, let's say, forever. Maybe, I mean, I used to be the guy where I'd be in the gym and somebody would be rowing with that kind of roller coaster handle up and down all over the place, stroke. And if I had a moment, I'd say to them, look, you realize you're rowing wrong. You're only really using about 30% of your muscles rather than the 85, 90% that Men's Health or whatever have told you you're going to be using. But falls on deaf ears. I'd say 95 out of 100 times I get completely ignored. Which, to be fair, is probably one of the sparks that made me create RowAlong, is having a place where I hope people will find and they'll go, what's this about? And then they hear me talking about straight arms, rocking over the hips, sitting up with a good posture, and then pushing the machine away with their feet rather than pulling the handle. And so this is one of the reasons why there are very few videos where I don't at least touch on technique. I mean, like I said, today was a tiny little drop in the ocean of what I could say, but I want to at least point out that rowing is not a pulling motion, it's a push of the legs. Hello, little kitty. Right, so I have just passed 5k, so I am going to ease off the power but try and continue to row at 20 strokes a minute. So this again, pretty much, I mean, I know sometimes I'll have been up at 21, sometimes I'll have been down at 19, but pretty much all of that workout, that 5k, I was at 20 strokes a minute. And if you remember the intro, 22 minutes ago almost, when I was saying I was taking it easy, rowing at 2:14 pace, that was at 20 strokes a minute. I then, as everything eased off, I got warm, I gradually increased the pace, ended up at 2:04 for most of the end sections, but still at 20 strokes per minute. And now for this easy 1k to finish, and remember, easy's in the eyes of the beholder, but I'm now like 2:20 pace, just backed right off, still at 20 strokes a minute. So it isn't, in case this hasn't come through in the little bit where I talked about it earlier on, the rowing machine is not like a spin bike where one pedal stroke equals like 1 meter distance traveled, regardless of how the resistance is set. The rowing machine is about the power you put into it. So here I am at 20 strokes a minute, 2:22 pace. So rowing almost 20 seconds slower than I was at the end of the main 5K. And that's because I'm not pushing as hard with my legs anymore. So when you really push into it, in fact, I'll do one. You can hear, should be, no? Oh, there we go. So it went up a bit. It's only one stroke, but there you go, 156 I went down to. Took a few, it's interesting how it takes, maybe that's about the PM5 to the erg data app. Just takes a couple of strokes to get there. But I was still 20 strokes a minute, but because, I'll go again, I pushed a lot harder with my legs, and I let that power come up through my core into the handle and into the machine. That one stroke took me from 2:22 pace to 1:58 because I was pushing harder. It's not about the machine, it's about you. So if you are sitting there saying, why can't I go faster? For a start, just take a few strokes, and it's the difference between lightly pressing into the machine as though you're standing up, or powering as though you were trying to jump up. Maybe you're trying to do a dunk on a basketball net. And then just see what happens to your pace. But then, like I say, make sure you have tilted forwards with arms straight and a braced core, and hold that forwards tilt with straight arms as you push your legs. Your body, your hips should only open about halfway through your leg drive, and then you only pull to a finish. Everything at the front is about bracing against the handle, hanging off the handle. It's not about pulling early, that disengages your legs. And trust me, unless there's some weirdness in your body, chances are your quads are bigger than your biceps. So use your quads first to get that power in, and then finish with your biceps. Okay, so imagine that. You get all this power from your legs, you then add in the power from swinging your back into that backwards position, and then you pull your arms into a finish. That's power, power, power. Whereas if you pull early from the front, you disengage your legs, and chances are you'll have opened up your back at the same time, so you'll have power. That's what's going into the machine. Now, depending on whether, if you're like a CrossFit or High Rocks brute and you have lots of upper body strength, then sure, you can row at like 135, 140 pace pretty much with your upper body because you've got all that power. But that's a different world, okay? They just don't want to listen about when it comes to rowing technique. So if you're interested in using the rowing machine to get a better workout, to be able to row 5K, to be able to just last as long as you want without being destroyed and whatever, and to use all of the muscles in your body rather than just your upper body. So if you go legs, body, arms, that's how you use that 90% of your muscles. So if you're interested in rowing and being able to row better and faster and for longer, then use your legs, your body, and your arms rather than going for the High Rocks CrossFit nastiness of just that pull from the front. Okay, so rant over. That may be today's short. Sorry, let's go to hamstrings first. Maybe you're still rowing, in which case continue going. We can watch all the people coming past us on erg data in the background. I'm going to stretch my hamstrings, so both feet go back into the straps, but they're loose, so I can flick my toes back against them. Legs down. Okay, so you really do want to get, I mean, I don't lock so much that they're kind of bending the wrong way, but you want these to be more locked. You finish your rowing stroke, it's a soft lock, okay? So where your legs are straight, but they're not locked. When you stretch your hamstrings, you do want to kind of bring them down, okay? So, sit up on the seat, okay? So front of the seat, up on, like front of your butt, front of the seat, put your hands in the air and then tilt forwards. Wow. So this has been a weekend of me not stretching my hamstrings then. Tilt and then like really just do think about hinging forwards, okay, tilting and keeping those legs down, and you will hopefully get that good stretch into your hamstrings. Again, like I say every single time, everybody has their own way of stretching, so you stretch how works best for you, but this is a great way for me, and I can feel, it's almost like I can feel my, oh, look at the pretty kitty again. I can feel my sciatic nerve coming up through my back and whatever. So I've obviously, I don't know how I've been sitting, probably because I've been at the desk all weekend doing either editing videos or coding my app. Right, let's move on to glutes next. Is this right? If I do that, and yeah. I need a piece of paper, I'm telling you. Hey, it's the Muppets. Put one leg up on the rail, okay? I might actually, it's a worthwhile, for the podcast people, I'm afraid you might just have to watch the end of the video to work out what I'm doing. So put one leg up on the rail. Your heel is sitting on basically like with the flap that connects the two halves of the Concept 2R, okay? But it's up in front of me. So I've got one foot, I'm explaining this in detail for the podcast people. The other foot is still on the floor. Bring that foot up and over your leg that's on the rail so that my heel is now, so I've got my left leg up on the rail. My right leg, the heel is against the left-hand side of my left leg. Does that make sense? I hope so. And then I can pull the knee of my left leg across my body. So the heel is now kind of like a fulcrum against the curve of my knee. I hold that in place with my left arm, and then I rotate my body round to the right and hold on to the back of the machine with my right arm. So that means that my right arm and my left knee are both kind of on the right-hand side of, we'll say, right arm, right knee, or on the right-hand side of the machine. My left arm is holding that knee in place, and because of that rotation round, I've got stretched down here into my glutes, or glute. Yeah, I need to, so I'm trying to think, because somebody, when I was doing the community row for my row on Saturday, it's all just done on screen, there's no video, it's all done by audio. So there's a Discord channel for it. I'm going to swap legs. And so I plug into Discord, and on that voice channel, right, let's do the same on the other leg. Oi! So yeah, so everybody plugs into Discord, and I basically talk. So it's basically like a podcast, effectively. And of course, it's me, so it's a soliloquy. Nobody gets the words in edgewise. Why is Santa here? Yes, everyone else is, during the row, everybody else is muted, so it's just me talking, and I kind of talk them through what the workout is and all that kind of stuff. A bit more professional, less jibber jabber from me, more about pace and whatever. Anyway, at the end, we do a stretching session, but it's all audio led, so I'm trying to talk to them about, right, let's stand up and do quads. Oh, so stand up next to the machine. If you want to rest one, this is an old style rower down the bottom left. Put one hand on the machine for stability if you wish. Bring one leg up in front of you, so your knee's in front of you. That will then allow you to hold on to your ankle, hopefully, and then you can pull your heel in behind you and touch it against your backside. And then you can hold it and you get a nice stretch from your quads. And that way I can kind of maybe take my hand off off the monitor. Sorry, I just got distracted because one of the icons I think is about to pass us, or maybe not, I don't think they're rowing. Looks like Alf, the old TV show Alf. But that wee rower, the old style rower, is stopped bottom left. I mean, there's part of me that thinks, oh, I wonder if he saw my RowAlong icon and he's stopped there to try and get some screen time. That's how narcissistic I am, that I think he stopped there because of me. But chances are it's because he just finished his 6K and that's why he stopped. Oh, he's gone. All right. Right, let's change the other leg. And I will continue my story about the myro thing. So anyway, so during the stretching at the end, basically, once it's all done, and I'm like, hi, right, okay, everyone, I'll give you a chance to talk now. And, oh, Alf's coming. Is it Alf? It is. Sorry, podcast people, you can't see any of this. Yeah, and basically someone popped up saying, oh, thank you so much for the row, blah, blah, blah. But I find your stretching, especially the glutes, really confusing. And so I ended up posting screenshots of my stretches onto that Discord chat so they could see what I was doing. But I can't do that for the podcast unless I start like the little thumbnail. Maybe every single time I could have a shot of, maybe I'll do that today. I might do that. I tell you what, I'm going to post a shot of me doing my little glute stretch on today's podcast, and you'll be like, what's going on there? And now you'll know if you've made it this far. Right, Forearms. So push your hands together in front of you and then bring them down. You bring your hands in front of your chest so that my thumbs are now at sternum height. So my forearms are parallel to the floor, thumbs are at sternum height. So I started with my hands up high in front of my face. I pulled them down in front of my chest. And this is now giving me a nice stretch into my wrists and forearms. Which again, today's rows, like these easy rows, possibly you don't need to stretch off. But I mean, like yesterday's extra group row was quite, basically I did yesterday's extra group row was the same row that I did for the My Row community the day before. And it was like an increase in intensity and stroke rate. But it wasn't ever tough. It kind of hit a moment of tough, but then you kind of eased off. But it's interesting, like this morning when I woke up, I could feel it in my shoulders, and sometimes you just don't realize the effect of a row has on your body. So this is why you should always stretch. So let's move on to shoulders, hands straight out in front of you, bring it across your body, use your other arm to help it come straight across your body, and then add enough force to get a stretch into your shoulder. If you want to rotate your thumb out outwards, that might help to keep your arms straight and then help that stretch into your shoulder. Oh no, it did just for me. But yeah, so sometimes you do a row and you think, oh, I'm fine. And then the next day you wake up and you're like, whoa, something's feeling strange because you didn't stretch. So this is why it's worthwhile just spending 2 or 3 minutes having a little stretching session. I know I tend to, these, when I'm doing them now, tend to go on, I'm swapping arms, tend to go on a little bit longer than 2 or 3 minutes, but that's because I'm always talking away to you. So if I just sat here in total silence and just thought about holding each stretch position for only 30 seconds, then this section would go a lot quicker. Although I was reading, if it was the KCR, that was it. Right, so here's like a throwback. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about the place that I go to kind of basically get stretched back into place. And I was like, I know it begins with K, but I can't remember what it is. And I think it was Peter got in touch and said, is it KT? It wasn't, because that's KT's the tape. But I was like, oh, what is it? And it's literally just popped into my head that it was KCR. God knows what it stands for. But he was telling me that when you stretch, especially for calves, or he was telling me about stretching calves, and what he said is you need to hold it for 90 seconds because the first 30 seconds, 45 seconds of a stretch, especially when it's like you're stretching off something that's sore, your body goes into kind of like, what's going on? And it starts to kind of tighten up and protect itself. But then once you hold it for a certain amount of time, the body goes, all right, okay, I'm okay. And then it will relax and ease off. And then you get the benefits of the stretch. So if you only did 30 seconds, you're still stretching in that panic mode, so you're not getting the result from it. So this is why you're better to, I used to, in the days when I used to play squash, I'd go through like a range of stretches and I'd do the whole thing 3 times round, 30 seconds each. But now I kind of think, was I wasting my time? But that was post-workout, so I wasn't really stretching off something. Anyway, right. So all these people are now just lapping us over and over again. I wonder if he walked Land's End to John O'Groats, the person that just went past, or maybe just to use at the sign. Yeah, who knows? It's interesting. See again. So our data's great for just kind of seeing stuff go around. If you just, somebody replied comment to one of my videos, or did a comment on one of my videos, and they were talking about itchy nose again. And they were saying, it was the review of the Averon machine. They were saying, there's each to their own. I prefer just having something very simple. I think nowadays, all of these distractions are just a way for people to disengage from the real world. And I think they've got a point in that I think there are people who row because they love rowing, okay? And then you just want a little bit of just distraction while you're doing it, okay? So I think, I'd hope this is why you're here. But then you do then get the people who are rowing because they've been told that rowing is good for them, and actually they don't really enjoy it. So they need to have something to completely just disengage them from the fact that they're rowing. And they're the ones that I think are probably more likely to have the kind of more dodgy technique because they never really concentrate on how they're rowing and things. But yeah, I mean, I used to, when I was training for rowing when I was playing squash, I'd just jam in some Van Halen, row 5K, staring at the PM3. That was it. There was no apps, there was no real time, all that kind of stuff going around. So they had a point. Anyway, right, I'm done. So thank you very much for joining me for this one. I will see you in the next one. Let me know how you got on with this. Let me know if you agree with my big long story about how just basically the instantaneous thing of being able to sit down on a rowing machine and make it move is almost like that's the downfall of it. It's almost like you need to have I don't know, there should be something to kind of let you know that there's more to it than just moving up and down. I don't know what that would be. That's the thing. Is like obviously I could tell that I was playing the drums poorly because it was just going. But then when you're playing along to music and you're suddenly going and you're keeping time with the music, you go, oh, I'm moving on a bit here. Here's getting good. But you can see the pace increase on your rowing machine, even though you're rowing rubbish. Going back to the CrossFit and High Rocks people. So anyway, thank you so much for joining me for this one. I'm sorry I've had a bit of a long outro here. Maybe I should start making these 10K a day so that I can fit in all the chat I say. But sometimes I've got lots to say, sometimes I don't. So apparently today was a lots day. So thank you so much for joining me for this one. I will see you tomorrow, whether that's a tomorrow for you or tomorrow for me, who knows. Until then, make sure and have something to eat, something to drink, have a shower, and tell someone you love them. I will see you in the next one. Until then, twice. Row well, be well. Bye-bye.